Guys, we are live. Sorry about that. It's a good job that we weren't misbehaving then. Hi, welcome. My name is Johnny Paul. I am the founder and director of FinTech Week Tel Aviv, which is an annual event in Tel Aviv, funny enough, which is now in its fifth year, set up to showcase Israeli innovation and bring collaboration and partnerships to the forefront. I want to introduce, first of all, we've got a fantastic panel. My first appeal to everybody is it's a difficult one. We've got some very esteemed panelists here, and I know we're all working under difficult parameters at home. If we can put everything aside and give full attention, because the guys that we have on this panel, I think, deserve that respect. So we will have a very colourful and fruitful discussion. So I hope you can stay with us for the next 40 minutes or so. So the panel today, we're going to be looking at the new normal, whatever that is, and we're going to be looking at the role of automation in the aftermath, or how it's going to all play out. So I want to first of all ask my panelists to introduce themselves, a little bit about their companies and what they do, and then within that, I wanted to answer the first question, which is, what is artificial intelligence? What is AI? And what does it mean to people? So if we can start with Ilan.
Yeah, so I'm Ilan. I head up banking pre-sales team for Onyx. What Onyx does is we use AI. We provide a platform for AI for financial institutions, and provide them the ability to offer their customers, let's say, the right product, first of all, and then the second thing is at the right price, and the third thing is the time. We enable them to offer the right product and the right price at the right time. Okay, so I mean, what is AI? You want me to start with what is AI, or you want to do the introductions first?
Well, let's do the introductions first then. Okay, we'll come back to that question. Should we move on to Rafael?
Yeah, my name is Rafael Oliveira. I work for a software company called Topdesk UK, a subsidiary of the Topdesk Netherlands, the headquarters. We develop service management software, and AI has been something that we've been talking about and developing the system towards incorporating more and more in the last 5 to 10 years. So it is definitely a hot topic.
Thank you very much. Simon?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Simon Blann, I'm the General Manager for Data Robot here in EMEA. And the company Data Robot was founded on the whole vision of helping organizations become more AI-driven and democratize the more complex world of data science. So we've been working with many of the large organizations over the last 12 years since we were founded in 2012. And have grown exponentially during that time as the use of AI is becoming more and more relevant across many industries now.
Fantastic, thank you. And lastly, Daniel?
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Daniel Peled. I'm a Senior VP at Cryon. And what we do at Cryon is we try to transform the automation market and actually automate the automation by taking AI and deploying it to understand, learn what processes should be automated, visualize them, and then automate them all in a single unified platform. So we have a lot of AI and a lot of machine learning, and as part of that in our platform.
Fantastic, thanks guys. So we already know the first question. What is artificial intelligence, and has it evolved from buzzword status? And obviously it means different things to different people. How would you interpret it and describe it? Whoever wants to pitch in first.
Yeah, well, I can start with the experience. I'll go on here. Sorry, Ilan.
No, go ahead, Rafael.
Well, from my experience at Topdesk, focus on the business that we do, but I think it gives a visibility of how it evolved, at least from the time we started learning and understanding about this. It all started as you mentioned, Johnny, as a buzzword, AI. All the companies started talking about this and became something, especially if you're a technology company, that you have to do. because your customers are asking you if you have artificial intelligence when they ask for a quote or demonstration of the product. And the question that we always ask back is, but what do you want to do with AI, and what do you want to achieve? Oh, I don't know, but do you have artificial intelligence? Well, at that stage, learning, understanding. So it was a buzzword. Everybody wanted to know more and understand more, but it was a thing clearly. And I think the next step that was clear for us was to separate or understand what would be the steps that we have to take to incorporate in a phase stage this into our product, into our business, because it constantly evolves, right? So for us, is AI are going to do from day one, is machine learning from day one, automation of things, or we can start small, basically doing things that will automatically create a task, automatically create an assignment, and then evolve as we develop and grow. And this is the approach that we took, learning, understanding, but not waiting until we know it all, because we're never going to know it all, to step by step move forward and progress. So what is AI for me? And that's what I read, and that's what I see in the outside world, constantly changing and evolving. And I don't have an answer to that really, because from a hedge angle is a different thing, I guess. But for me, is understanding my business, how we can help us and take these steps and develop our people to learn and incorporate that as much as we can.
Fantastic. Yeah. Anybody else want to pitch in on that? Yeah.
I can take, for me, AI is something else. AI is something behind the scenes. What AI does, it enables things to happen, right? And the things to happen in my world is like discovering processes, right? So how do we discover processes, right? So AI, the fact that it's back there and there's a lot of algorithms and a lot of solutions we're using to develop that, that's fine, but it should be the behind the scenes. The outcome is what matters. And I think through AI and through all the machine learning and all the innovative technologies, whether it's OCR, whether it's process mining, whether it's price optimization, we're providing customers and providing end users a better service. And that's what we're looking to do. And that's, I think, all of us, we're trying to get people to have a better life through technology. And one of the technology pillars is AI. So again, it stands and maybe has a lot of meaning behind the scenes, but at the end, if you don't implement it, and a user doesn't get the value from that, then it doesn't really mean anything.
May I jump in and ask a question to Daniel? Daniel, what do you define as a better life for customers and for people, for users? Is it less time spent in manual work, or is it learning more about the things that they're moving forward program or?
So in my world, which is automation, it's people doing less manual work. It's people getting educated quicker because we have bots that learn and teach processes to new employees and guide them through them. So it's improving the life of employees and changing the way of work, right? And that's something really accelerated through COVID right now, actually quite fast, because all of a sudden, instead of being able to see people and be with them and learn what they're doing and sit behind them and map their processes, you can't. They're sitting at home. I can't go to somebody's house and learn the process that he's doing so I can go and automate it. So you really need to have the tools and the ability to do it with a seamless solution remotely. And I think that's what it means for them.
Yeah, and I
And I
guess
think just to,
go ahead.
sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, adding to Daniel's point, I think AI is in that classic hype cycle right now, where it is very broad. It can mean many different things, but there are strong deliverables out of the broader context of AI. Daniel touched on some of them now around robotic process automation, RPA. There's machine learning, there's deep learning. All of those elements are delivering direct value here and today. When you think about some of that classic AI, whether it's the cyborg, kind of character from Terminator, those kind of consumer elements are not there yet, but there are many aspects of AI that are delivering today and many companies are using them. So I think AI is a bit of a hype terminology in its own right, and therefore sometimes it's too broad. And I think we've all kind of commented on that. And I think you have to be more specific in what elements of AI you are talking about and want to utilize, because that's where the value can really start to hit the rubber on the road.
Yeah.
Has it got past that buzz?
That's where I was going to come. And I think AI, what we've seen with AI, and again, in my world, it's helping our customers understand their customers better. And that's using AI and machine learning. And what we've seen, and we've been doing it for like 20 years already. What we have seen, obviously, technology has advanced. Access to data or availability of data. You've got AI2, you've got social media that is suddenly accessible. Another thing we're seeing that AI has become part of our day-to-day lives. We come to our mobile, there's face recognition, that's AI, and it's used. And so yeah, I think it's past that buzzword. It's just now more into, right, the technology is there, the data is out there, it's available. How do we actually use it to provide value to the customers?
Yeah, I think the point of the buzzword as well that Johnny mentioned in the beginning is it definitely is there at the beginning as an introduction to the world because it doesn't exist. We're getting into this, but also, Ilan, I think even though it is still there here, very much present in many fronts, it is still a buzzword to many companies as well, because I know many businesses that they do not have anything to AI with AI, but they do have as a goal for the next 5 years to implement AI in the business. Oh, but what do you mean? I don't know. We're going to set a project group that we're going to implement AI. So because why are you doing this? Because it's a thing, it's a trend. So whether good or bad, you're doing this because everyone else is doing, even though you don't know what it means to you. Then it's a different story, I guess.
I agree that at the end of the day, the key is value. How do you use AI to provide value to your customers? That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peggy, who just delivered the keynotes before us, shared a very interesting quote from Gartner saying, through 2022, data management manual tasks will be reduced by 45% through the addition of machine learning and automated service level management. That's astonishing. What are your thoughts?
But also Gartner says that by 2020, artificial intelligence will create more jobs than eliminates, because one of the points that some people argue against AI is that by automating things, you're basically eliminating jobs. So, for example, if you're driving cars now, it will be automated and self-driven cars. What happens with the bus driver, the taxi driver? So, yeah, of course, these jobs will be eliminated. We can already see in the supermarkets here in the UK that the tills are all self-service till, where there used to be 5-10 employees helping. When you think about this in isolation, yes, this will disappear potentially, but also many other things will be created off the back of that. What are those things? We don't know right now, I guess, as it happened before the evolution of social media and internet and accessibility, I guess, to information. Who would say that 10 years ago, as social media social media content manager would be a role in a business? And well, one of the key roles actually in marketing in for many companies. We never knew. We never would imagine in a million years when Facebook came out that someone would be hired to literally spend time investigating and learning and playing around with that tools, the social medias, to bring more leads to the business, to attract more people. And it is a big thing now. So there will be many new things that we don't know right now.
I think it lends itself just to, automation is not new. It's been around for a number of years. Technology always drives innovation. And I think what it's doing in the context of automation or even AI is helping us automate manual tasks. And on the whole, that makes people more productive to do the value add around the domain expertise they have as human beings or the business knowledge they've got. If we can put people into doing those types of tasks, more than mundane and routine tasks, that's typically very advantageous to an organization and to a business, rather than having employees that are processing manual claims in insurance, for example. That's just one easy example. The automation there around RPA and machine learning in the insurance world, that's huge benefits productivity-wise in those organizations. So there are direct benefits of doing that, and automation and that innovation is there to replace the manual tasks, not the domain expertise and other things. And that's where the human combination and technology, I think, is always going to be very powerful as a winning combination between the two.
And I think overall employees will be happier because they won't do mundane, boring jobs day in, day out. They actually have to challenge themselves, do more interesting stuff, do
Learn new things.
creative stuff, and really feel that they're more productive. And I think this will be a big change in how companies look at people and look at bots, as they have to manage the ecosystem of both of them right now.
Definitely, yeah.
So do you think the pandemic has accelerated the need for these AI-led processes and shown the importance and value of automation, or is it just a natural trajectory?
I think absolutely we saw it. We saw probably all our existing customers have a huge growth in adoption of automation. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it definitely did, but I'm gonna take a different angle now. Not talking about the business or technology business that understand this and know what we're talking about. I'm gonna focus more on the other side, on people, on employees or people that are not necessarily tech savvy or have that understanding, that are the first ones to get scared when you talk about AI, robots, automatization. The first question they ask is, "What about my job?" kind of thing. And I think what the COVID crisis taught us and brought to us is that need to go digital for this period of time, at least, whether it's to buy your groceries or whether it's to order your whatever that comes Amazon or any other delivery company, or whether it's to have a conference like this that we would be probably in person in somewhere in the world, and now we are here. At first, when we had to move our business into digital or into remote working from home and everything being online meetings, I was as a manager of the business a bit, how is it going to work? Having everyone going from a Friday night after office hours to start on Monday working from home, all the business. Well, we had the infrastructure, we had the knowledge, because every now and then one or the other used to work from home, but everyone at the same time, how impactful it will be, I don't know. And it proved to be actually a great thing from this perspective, because being forced to go through this, there was no hesitance, because you have to, everyone is doing, you have no option. And we did it, as we all did, I guess. And for us, we can see that it didn't have a bad impact. Actually, people became more productive. And these people, I'm sure they will have a look at AI subject with different eyes as well. If they were those ones that I mentioned before, there used to be, oh, no, technology. They understand more and they see the benefits and advantages of this progress.
I'm just going to bring another aspect. I mean, I think the thing of adaptation, I think if you weren't able to adapt, you're not going to survive. That's the bottom line. And I think that plays for employees as well. I mean, the pace has changed. Employees, we see small businesses, especially small businesses, that weren't able to adapt and they were disappeared overnight. I think it's great. And again, coming back to employees working from home, and that's where I see a lot of trends coming from my customers, we have financial institutions. It's how do you support these how do you support these employees using AI? And we've got requests for providing additional insights to these employees that are working from home through chatbots or Alexa in a meaningful manner, so they can actually serve their customers better. So I think the adaptation is, if you're not able to adapt, you're not going to survive. That's the bottom line.
So that brings it perfectly to my next question, which is what needs to be done to implement the technology and show the true value to customers. What's the next step?
I think, Johnny, on that point, maybe I'll take that one. I think it's got to be a combination of technology, people, and cultural change. Technology has never been the defining factor alone, and I think, linking back to the COVID, that's just been a significant cultural change, people change for all of us, whatever industry you're in, over the last 9-10 months. But I think it's that combination. And when I look at what we as DataRobot do, we've created DataRobot University, which is to help educate people identifying how to use technology and AI for their business. And therefore, it's not just about helping them identify use cases, because some people go, I want to use automation and AI, but I don't know where to use it, where to apply it. So it's educating them in those areas around, these are the kind of things you can do with technology. And then saying, right, technology to one side, how do you then help manage that change management process? How do you get people involved on that? Because many people have got huge amount of domain expertise, and if they understand how AI could be used, then they can apply it to their business. And therefore, we've seen a huge uptick on the amount of requirements on our clients asking us for education around how to use this technology so they can apply it on a more general basis. So for me, it's definitely technology, people, and change management in a combination rather than technology alone.
100%.
I would say another thing. I mean, I think first of all, AI is a journey, and I think we see customers wanting. We come to customers and we hear banks saying, "Well, we don't have the data in place, we don't have anything in place." And my advice is just start simple. So you don't need sophisticated models behind the scenes to make certain decisions. You can use simple rules. In the meantime, collect the data. As you're collecting the data, learn what your customers are doing, what's providing value, and then gradually grow and expand your sophistication and grow across your lines.
Now, what we've seen is, again, first of all, we know a lot of processes that can be automated, right? We know a lot of things that can be done through AI, through automation. Let's start with them, and then let's not take the complex one. Let's take the simple ones, as Ilan just said. Start small. So let's take the simple process that we know that it's easy to gain value, to show the quick win, and build on those quick wins very, very much, and spread them around. Get the organization excited about it. Get the resistance of people to shy away from that, because now they see it working. They feel less afraid. They see it's not coming to take their job, but to help them do their job. And when you have that buy-in, then you can really start scaling across the organization.
Yeah.
Another thing, it has to come from the top. You have to have C-level, and not just the C-level, the CEO pitching it, promoting it, giving the benefits to people who adopt it, to show his commitment to make it happen. Because only with that, the people under him will start to buy in and will start to adapt into it. And we have some really great examples of our best customers that it came from the top, and very quickly it spread around across the organization.
Yeah, and I think just to add, Daniel, to this is I think definitely coming from the top and to make sure that people buy into it, but also as part of this, always bear in mind and try to understand first the different types of perceptions that people have when it comes to that, because it will vary surprisingly a lot, not only from the discrepancy between an educated person in the technology side and an uneducated person that's not from the technology world, that will have a completely different perception of AI is a robot that is going to walk on the streets and replace policemen, or it is someone that will replace my job, or just something that will actually help us to move forward better, and you to get a better job because you'll be happier doing things that you actually like instead of manual thing. But I think understanding the backgrounds in a way, and the perceptions that certain groups or types of personas they have is key as well during the implementation process of AI in any business.
So what are the potential dangers and shortcomings of AI facing technologies, or the blind spots for implementation as well?
Well, I've got three key areas, I guess. One is, AI is a box. You're throwing something, it spits out something. You don't really know what goes in the middle. So I'd say one is transparency, and that is the ability to understand what exactly that magic is. The second is the explainability, and that's the ability to explain to your customers or who you're providing why a certain decision was made. And the third is fairness. You want to make sure that the decisions are made. Remember, the AI is developed by, and I'm just dropping down, I'd say 80% of data science are probably males today. You want to make sure that the decision is fair and has no social bias, such as gender, and we can take Apple Card as a good example for this.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, Ilan, I think it's a great point, or great points, because I think you've got to look at it that it's a combination of technology and human intelligence as well. I think when you combine those two, you get a very good outcome typically. I think if you rely on one and bias towards another, I think the example of the Apple Card and the gender bias there, which there's been quite a lot of high profile media reports on things that have not gone well when people have implemented AI, and the media love that because it kind of portrays this bad technology image. But those are difficult things to overcome. So it comes back to trust in that data, transparency. I totally agree. The way we do it is, data scientists are using our technology and others as well that are being able to see exactly what's happening under the skin, and therefore you can look at how things are calculated and the output of those models in a way that everyone can understand in the business. And I think that's vitally important, because the black box approach just doesn't work. Therefore, trust is eroded at that point, and people will move away from using those types of technologies. So transparency and trust, I think, are absolutely critical in this new world.
Yeah, as of course, I mean, data is key, and I don't go to a conference where you don't hear data described as the new oil. But obviously, oil needs a refinery, and processing data is hugely important. But how do you decide on how you extract, process, and store data? I mean, and who should be the gatekeepers there?
It has to be a collaboration between the business, IT, and the manufacturer. And when you align all three and you decide on what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it, and how you convey it to the organization, that's when you can really align everybody and make the most out of it. I think, if one party tries to push it, like us, the vendor, if we try to push, for my sake, drive automation, automate this process, it's not going to do anything, and nobody's bought in, nobody understands it, you're only going to create, even if you have the right data, even if you create the right impact, nobody's going to appreciate it. And only when all parties come together is when it's going to be appreciated and it's going to be welcomed in the organization.
Yeah, I think as a business leader, I think we should, as business leaders, we should, when coming to that point or crossing that bridge, let's say, we need to focus not only in the buzzword or the new era that the business will come into in implementing AI, but take into consideration things that we discussed before. What jobs will be lost? What jobs will be created? What's the impact they will have in the ways that that people are used to work and they currently work for the company? And the way they collaborate with the others, is it going to increase? Is it going to decrease? Is it going to change the company culture? Changing the company culture will make people happy or less happy, and then make decisions and how to implement this and how to get the work done in a way that we can incorporate this all, but also factoring all these elements because they are important, I think, for many businesses.
I think just to add to that, I've been in the data analytics world for more than 10 years, and it's always been described as the new oil, and therefore it's how people manage that, govern it, I think is very important. I think as we use more and more of these technologies, and you look at the machine learning context, there's even the evolution now of machine learning operations, which is the next evolution on from DevOps, IT operations, because the management of machine learning and how you utilize models across an organization becomes a complex thing to manage in its own right. So it has to be a combination of the business and IT organization that may be the custodians of the core data. That's their responsibility. Then you get trust, you get governance that comes with that by them having robust processes. But it's not just one in isolation. If that's managed to a point where there's no flexibility with the data, then your competitive advantage of using the data is lost. So exactly to Daniel's point, it's got to be a combination of many factors, but you've got to have some structure and governance in place so that people can come back and actually trust the data they're using.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, the tremendous amount of work needs to be done to persuade customers, the general public, that data is for good, and automation as well. I mean, so you guys have a hell of a job, which I think we're winning. But is there obviously newcomers are better prepared than the legacy-ridden entities? So a big question is, who will win, short-term and long-term?
I think the users will win, right? The customers will win. They'll get the benefit, and again, from their perspective, it doesn't matter if it's a current legacy bank or a new bank they want to get a service, and they'll get the best service out of it.
The best service, yeah.
And that's the winning point. Now, I think probably both banks will sort of win, right? The legacy banks will have to adapt and probably won't have any more retail banking is probably going to go away or going away to some extent through them. But then all the P2P and all those applications might thrive, but they'll still need some way to take the data and manage it and manage the transactions, and they'll use some of the core banking systems to do that. So again, there'll be a collaboration between the legacy and the new. And I think, at the end, the biggest winners would be actually the customers, because they'll get the best service out of it.
I agree, yeah.
Ilan, you're muted.
Yeah.
No, can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Your mic's...
Maybe I'll go while Ilan is trying to sort his microphone out. I think, Johnny, to your point, I think it's a great example of there's innovators in the new startups, and there's some actually very strong traditional organizations that are really kind of disrupting their own markets. And I think you've got to have a mindset of, can you disrupt a market or can you create a new one? And I think there's good examples on both sides. If you look in the insurance space, again, Ilan and DataRobot and Ernix are technology partners, so we both know that space pretty well. But taking a company called Lemonade, they've taken a really innovative approach to insurance around digitizing the whole process end to end. And therefore, they're kind of disrupting a very traditional market in how insurance has been managed and run for decades. But you've also got great examples of traditional companies that are saying, look, if we don't disrupt this market, then guess what? Someone else will. So I think it's the companies that are taking a forward-thinking approach of how do we disrupt the market we operate in, or how do we find adjacent markets that haven't even been created yet. And I think you can be a large company or a small company with that mindset. There's some barriers to entry in some areas, but I think if you've got that approach, and I think it will be the companies that take advantage of either the data they have themselves or even utilizing third-party data, which will be the ultimate competitive advantage. Because I think as these technologies become more mainstream, the competitive advantage in its own right diminishes. So therefore, it's who's got access to the right data or the data that gives them a competitive advantage to then apply these technologies to. And I think that will create the winners and the losers in the long run as we go forward.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, I think pace and agility become key over here. I think the pace in where things are changing today is, especially COVID-19, I think we've never felt this before. I think this pace is just going to accelerate more and more as we go down, as new AI is introduced. So the ones that are the organizations that are open-minded and are able to adapt to the pace will be the winners at the end of the day. And I think we've got a few examples like Kodak, and you take Microsoft, that suddenly were old and they were able to open-minded enough to adopt to the change, and we see them today.
By the way, I forgot to mention that if anybody in the audience has any questions, please type them in. I can see that I've got it in front of me. So if you want to ask our esteemed panel anything, please type them in now, and I will address them to whoever you want. Any other thoughts on that last point about legacy-ridden entities versus the incumbents, newcomers? I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah,
no, we can. I think we don't have much to add right now.
So while we're waiting to see if we've got any questions coming in, let's get some final thoughts. I think we're running out of time. So just some final thoughts from each of you on where we're going, where you see the next 12 months, 12 to 14 months, and the adoption of AI and automation, and how you envisage that.
I think it will mature from a hype into the reality and into useful, actionable, I guess, projects that the organizations deploy and customers feel. I think the resistance in organizations to adopt it is going to diminish quite a lot, because it's going to become a lot more common, and you see it at scale in every field that we touch the enterprise. And thus the companies will change. They'll have to adapt. We talked about adoption before. They'll have to be much more agile in order to survive after these whole changes are applied, because there's no going back. And I think that, if I take one point, there's no going back from this. It's just going to get more. Everything is going to get more and more efficient, more and more data driven, more and more AI and ML and all the other adjacent technologies applied to it in order to make enterprises successful.
Yeah, and also it'll be like there'll naturally be step by step, I would say, or phased approach to the implementation, because naturally the first ones to be that we see AI applied to will be the repeatable tasks, things that by repetition, for obvious reasons, we want to automate this to be more efficient and to reduce the time and cost for the organizations. And then once you move from these, let's say, categories of tasks that are highly repeatable or they are routine but not very much repeatable, then you see that this it has more dependency on a human factor as well, and more careful, I guess, consideration, or because there's some intelligence involved or some decision to be made that maybe technology is not there yet to learn and make that decision for a person or for a business. And the less routine and the more specific or the more non-routine these tasks are, then it's definitely. But I see that coming to that point, this will take a long time, because we'll still be heavily dependent on a person, on a group of people, human beings, to be the ones doing this, because there's no repetition to be learned or to be taught to a machine to be our brains and replace us, for example, in that sense.
Yeah, I'll just take another dimension, and I maybe look and where I see we've spoke about adoption, we spoke about agility. I want to look at regulation. I think from a regulation perspective, there's going to be much more governance around data and data practices. I think GDPR is just the start. So that in terms of regulation, so in terms of the use of AI and the ability, transparency, and the ability to explain what's running behind the magic. I see a lot of that, a lot of regulation towards that as well. So yeah, that's where I see.
And just to kind of conclude, I think I agree with certainly Daniel's comments. I think this is just around the next phase. This was happening anyway. I think the COVID pandemic, just to bring it back to that earlier point, has only accelerated that in a number of different ways and made us realize that we've got to do things in a more agile way. I think if you look at just video conferencing technology, that was always evolving. That this kind of pandemic has just accelerated that much faster now to a new norm where we're never going to go back from. I think that's the same in some of these areas of automation and AI. And I think it will be companies that will look at use cases that have high value and potentially less complexity initially, where they'll start, and then they'll maybe work on the harder, more complex ones over time. But there is still so much value in some of those less complex but still high value use cases that people start to work on in the next few months, and certainly in the next 12 months, where I start to see a huge acceleration of how this technology can be applied. So I think it's a new normal, to bring it back to the whole kind of title of the session, and I don't think we'll be reverting back to the old type of way of working.
No. And that's, I think our time is up. I haven't seen any questions from anybody, so which is a good thing, because I think it means that you've answered everybody, and nobody can come back on that. So yeah, I just want to thank our esteemed panel, Ilan, Raphael, Daniel, and Simon. Thoroughly enjoyed that session. It was great. And thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and insights. And I look forward to doing something again in the future. So thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your thoughts with us today. Thank you everybody out there for joining us and for bearing with us through the technical hitches. Please stay with us. We have a keynote session next, which is looking at customer journeys, another very exciting subject. But thank you very much again, and we will stay safe, and we will see you again soon. And thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.